Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Wayne County Chambers podcast, For the Record. We want to say a special thank you to our sponsors, Sport Durst of Goldsboro, Goldsboro Builders Supply, and Professional Data Management. The Sport Durst team is ready to get you into a beautiful new Volkswagen, offering open and honest pricing on every vehicle and service. Sport Durst of Goldsboro understands the value of your time and dollars. Providing quality building materials since 1953, Goldsboro Builders Supply is your premier destination for custom designs and excellent service to builders and contractors in Wayne County and surrounding areas. Professional Data Management offers specialized service and technologies designed to help you gain maximum reimbursements for the valuable services that your office provides. Another huge thank you to our in-kind sponsors, Daniels Furniture, University Lights of Goldsboro, and Johnson Carpet One, who together worked hard to make our beautiful podcast set what you see today. And for the record, we're glad you're here.
Well, I would love to just say how fired up I am. Good gracious. To have the one and only Kate Daniels on the For the Record podcast with the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce.
For the record, I am so jazzed up. I am so proud of you and this chamber for just going after it. This is going to be such a blessing to the community.
So is there ever a day you're not jazzed up?
No, there's not actually.
I don't think there ever is. I don't think in the history of ever seeing or knowing you that I've ever seen you not be jazzed up.
There's no other way to be. You can be anything you want to in this world. Just be jazzed up about it. Be positive. Yes.
I'm jealous, man.
Yes.
I wish I could. I'm the glass half empty guy. You know what I mean?
You're more realistic than I am.
I don't know what it's called, but But we are glad to have you. So I'm sure everybody knows you, but we want to make sure that everybody is introduced to you. So if you'll tell us who you are and kind of who you represent, what you're doing now, and a little bit about your family.
Very cool. Yes. I'm Kate Daniels. I grew up right down the street in Kinston, went off to ECU and met my husband, Jeremiah, who is from Goldsboro. He's third generation at Daniels & Daniels Construction Company. And so fortunately for my family, my dad was like, do not go far. I did not go far. So we came to Goldsboro after college, and I have loved being a part of the Wayne County community in so many ways. And the first way I got involved was volunteering with the Wayne County Chamber, and was fortunate enough to be president starting in 2013 up until, a year and a half ago? And so that has been the bulk of my time here in Wayne County. When I started at the chamber, we had a 1 and 2-year-old, and now we have a almost 13-year-old and 11-year-old, which is crazy. That puts it in perspective of me. You think how, just time goes by so fast. And so after leaving the chamber, I went home for a little bit and got with my family in a new, different dynamic. And then Jeremiah was like, come on, let's do some part-time business development. So I've joined the family business, doing some work with Daniels & Daniels.
That's awesome. So what did you do before this?
So right before this, I worked at the North Carolina Community Credit Union. Prior to that, I worked at the then Mount Olive College in admissions.
Oh, and, I could see that.
Can you see that?
Oh my God. There were people making decisions left and right, right?
But it's really neat when you look through your path. Like I have a degree in child development, and nice. Every day I'm like, I don't use that degree, but you do. I mean, all the things and the jobs that you had when I was in college. I was a court reporter. I worked at a restaurant and worked at a law firm. And so, that brought me, I was doing court reporting when I met Jeremiah, and had an opportunity at Mount Olive College, and I loved it. Like court reporting is not what most people think. Some people think you're in front of like a camera saying what happened in court that day. That's not it. I literally spoke into a mask all day, every day, and repeated verbatim what people in the room were saying. And then I transcribed it. So I wasn't talking to people. So my poor husband would come home and I'd be like, saying this is not working.
We're going to need a new job here.
Getting into Mount Olive College, and I loved working there. I loved recruiting for the college, and I actually met John Bell. Representative John Bell was working for the credit union, and they were hiring a marketing director. Mm-hmm. And he was like, "I like your attitude," and I was like, "Well, thanks." I've never taken a marketing class. And so I got an interview, and I probably shouldn't say this publicly, but I try to be very transparent. I went to the bookstore here in Goldsboro and got Marketing for Dummies, read it cover to cover, came up with a marketing plan, and they took a chance on me. And so I was there for like 5 years, and then before coming here.
It worked out.
Yeah, but
for both parties.
But there wasn't a Chamber of Commerce for Dummies. I looked.
And even if there was, I don't know that it would matter. I'm going to be honest. I mean, so you come into the chamber 2013, I think it's probably fair to say that this is a rare situation, right? Like,
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would think that being president of the Chamber of Commerce is just a unique role,
Yes.
at least from anything I've been accustomed to. And I would imagine for you too, right?
100%.
So, you come into that, and even if they had a Chamber of Commerce for Dummies, you're going to need to shelf that after about, 6 weeks.
Uh-huh.
And so you're young, you're
Yes.
learning on the job. Well, take us through that moment, that season, that experience.
So, I'll back into why chamber. When I was little, my dad had an insurance company in Kinston, and my parents were divorced. And so my mom lived in New Bern. And so I was going back and forth a lot. And so there were evenings where my dad would be like, we got to go to a chamber event. And I remember as a young kid being like, this is kind of cool. You've got all these business professionals. You don't see it as often now, but the passing of a business card and, just making those connections. And I just thought it was neat. I thought it was a neat environment. It was always high energy. And I remember my dad explaining this to me. And it still gives me goosebumps. He said he had moved to Burlington, came back home to Kinston. He was working for a bank at the time. And I was like, what was the first thing you did when you started your own insurance? He said, the first thing I did was I went down Queen Street and joined the Chamber of Commerce. And he said, it is like the written rule of business. That is where you make connections. That is where, a lot of times look to see where are these vetted businesses in our community. So I grew up knowing about the chamber. And then when I came to Goldsboro, I would come to like the business after hours, and some of the events, they weren't as event heavy, but Steve Hicks was the president then, Johnny Peacock was before him. There have been so many great leaders that have brought this chamber to where it is. But during that time, there was a 2.5-year period where it wasn't stable. There was some leadership that had come in. There were 2 directors back to back that weren't here, but for very brief periods of time. We were fortunate to have Dr. Ed Wilson and Beverly Carroll, who were 2. Ed Wilson, every time I think of him, I think of the chamber. And we lost him this past year, but he was a pivotal point to keep the momentum going. And so, I didn't have any experience in managing people, managing anything. Not the financial background. I'm telling you all the things that I didn't have, but I did have the passion for the community and bringing people together. And I knew, the woman right on the other side of this wall, Janet Brock, she has been, this incredible force and to help this chamber through the years. And that finance piece was one piece that I was really worried about. I was like, that's a big piece of it because we were in a lot of debt. A lot. Most chambers were and many still are. And so that was the first thing I thought, the people side of it is the driver. We've got a smart board that's going to help us get our finances turned around. And, we got to get trust back in the membership. And so those 3 things were the main focus. Mm-hmm. And we were able to do that and get rid of debt. We were able to, build some trust because I was already in the community and around, it wasn't a new face.
They weren't hiring somebody from out of town.
Right. I didn't have to put in my Google Maps 308 North William Street. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important for all communities, but especially one our size.
Sure.
So I think that was, one thing. And then the other thing was, our retention rate was very volatile. We were averaging like a 67% retention rate. So, running a chamber, you want to make sure you take care of all the people you've got. You want to grow it, But so I'm like, we got to stabilize this. Like we've got to get, so ever since starting in 2014, we jumped from like a 68% to a 93% retention rate. And that was really important to me. And two, just making sure we were being good partners in the community. During that time, it was, and it's not just, it's any organization. There are limited resources.
Yeah.
And at that time specifically, it did feel like we were all kind of working in these silos. And it's like, guys, we got to do this together. And now looking at this community, I mean, it looks totally different. And I think back to our time, like when you and Craig got around the table and started brainstorming about launch. I'm like, what? And look at that. I mean, just there's so many beautiful examples. And with United Way and all these partners that are just, they're just working together.
Yeah, but I mean, even take an initiative like Launch, which I think the community is starting to learn more about, which is a good thing. I mean, I think what people underestimate is the impact of the platform of the chamber. Like those things don't get the same legitimacy, right or wrong. I mean, I think it's right because I think there's a reason that legitimacy occurs. Right. It's because of the trust that's been built over time, and but when Kate Daniels and the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce says, yeah, we'll get behind this, it allows it to be taken places that it couldn't otherwise go. And so I think that, I think that's an interesting, example because, gosh, if it wasn't for the chamber support, that Launch would have gone nowhere. I mean, it would have only been this little siloed, very, lightly impactful thing.
Yeah, well, it was an amazing idea and y'all pulled it forward. And now looking at it, you've got this partnership with the Rotary. It's amazing what can happen. It's amazing what can happen with vision and support for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you talked a little bit about sort of the status quo when you arrived, and I think that's part of really what I wanted to have this conversation with you about is because I don't think maybe the public fully appreciates, it's taken for granted that the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce is in the position that it's in. It did not happen by accident. And there were a lot of people who contributed a lot of things, but none more so than you. And I think it's just important for us to note that. I mean, you had been the longest tenured president for, I don't know, a long time, right? So there was continuity, and your face and your presence and your approach gave it continuity. Your vision for collaboration gave it continuity and gave it staying power. 90% retention rates in any business don't happen just because, right? There has to be some real devoted pathway to, identity and success. I mean, that was a successful 9-year run, right? I mean, anybody who would have come in after you. First of all, I like to tell people there's a this guy about a week before I started again. He says, "So you're the new," and I was like, "Yeah, I think so." And he said, "They sure went a different direction."
Oh my God.
I said, "Yeah, fair. That's fair. Touche." But what were your biggest focuses? I know the debt reduction was part of it. Retention was part of it. What were some other maybe big areas of focus for you?
Well, so we had gone from not doing a lot of events to when the TRC, the Total Resource Campaign, which really started to reshift the chamber. I mean, we were in major financial problems. And at the time, Ben Seegers was chair of the board. And I mean, he had found out about this concept that was working in chambers and was like, we got to figure out how to do this. And so the team that was here at that time, they did it. But with that, shouldn't say but a part of that was we've got to ramp up a lot of programming. And so, I mean, like 110 events and programs throughout the year. Not all big, some very, very small, but still trying to just really cast that net across the county and to find something for every business. Because as you will attest to, not everybody joins the chamber for the same reason.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a startup in a garage, you're joining the chamber to have access to people and maybe some major marketing. If you're the hospital, you're doing it for other reasons. I mean, everybody's got it for different reasons. So we were trying to do this broad stroking, here's events and programming. And so that was a lot. I mean, that was a lot of it because, I really felt too, we were at chamber events because they were our events. I tried really hard to be seen outside of chamber events, which it's like I told you when you first started, I'm like, you have to say no. Like you can't be everywhere. Like you can't. And it's like, it seems like I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth. At the time when I started here, the chamber did need to be everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, I think over that time of making sure we were connected and plugged in, then it built that trust. And then it built that, rapport, right? To be able to know, like, we're going to know what's going on so we can connect said person when they come in our building or fill in the blanks. So, that was challenging, but it was fun. Oh my gosh, it was fun. But then it's hard because then you get back to your desk and you're like, how many emails do I have?
Right.
And you're constantly playing that catch up.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. Well, and what's your favorite event that you ever did?
Oh,
Yeah,
looking back, it's still the legislative events.
Oh, really?
Still those are still one of my favorites. The Wise Women's event, the first year that was done, that was definitely a standout.
Nice.
The leadership, no, it's probably the leadership, the lessons learned in leadership where, you moderated and you've got 4 leaders in the community and they just share things that I think you wouldn't expect them to share. That's wonderful. It's wonderful. You leave with the best nuggets.
I got you.
Yeah.
So there were 6 favorites, is what you're saying.
Okay. There were some more. I'm sitting here going, what about this one? What about this one?
What was the hardest part?
Okay. So I think it's safe to say that I am a born people pleaser, which I think can serve you well. The hardest part was not pleasing everybody.
Oh.
And that's part of life and that's part of business.
Yeah.
But when it's a personality trait, that one's kind of tough.
Yeah.
That one's kind of tough.
And it's impossible.
It is impossible.
I mean,
And people told me that. And I was like, it's possible.
watch
Watch this.
this. I have superpowers. Yeah. And you had to be pretty close, right? You had to be pretty close.
And the other challenging part was, you have to separate your personal opinions based on what's best for the organization and community.
Yeah.
But that is no different than any business or anything else. But that is something that I just think like you have to be intentional about.
Right.
And that was not hard. It was not easy. It was somewhere in between.
Right. Some days were probably easier than others.
Sure.
And I think from an advocacy standpoint, it's such a fine line because, you're like, well, so the chamber has a role to play, on behalf of our members to say, all right, we're not comfortable with the direction of X, Y, or Z.
Right.
But then a lot of those people are the same people you have to, partner with or, navigate whatever solutions you're trying to solve at any given time. It is a delicate process.
It is. And it's one that I think it's just like anything else in life, working through it. And I do, there's that question of like, what's your superpower? And I used to think like when somebody would ask you that, it's like, I'm a positive person.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I think my superpower was looking at all sides. Like I have joked and said, you ask any member in this building, if they were here when I was here, what did Kate always say? There's 7 sides to every story. I don't believe there's 2 sides. And so it's trying to, whatever you're trying to navigate or whatever you're looking at doing is looking from the lens of where people are coming from to find a common ground. Because we're not always going to get what we want.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish we did. But if they would run into, and it's having to do with the community or fill in the blank, and it's like, well, this was done and this shouldn't have been done. And it's like, well, hold on, let's see where that person's headspace was when that decision was made. Here's the information they had. Here's the direction they were trying to go in. I think we're so quick to think, negative things first. And I think that's been a great thing at the chamber is people have always looked to the chamber to be this, force of people. Yes.
Neutral party.
Neutral party. Yeah. And it's how old now? 127? 126-ish.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. I can't walk in your conference room and not feel like the back of my neck is hot, like I'm about to cry. That the board, the leadership of this chamber, and there's some that go way back to when the first, I can't remember the year of the first one, but that's amazing to think about. The men and women who have walked through this door, the former location, and have been a part of supporting and promoting this business community is incredible. It's incredible.
100% incredible. And I wonder what is different today. Like, I mean, what is, when you look at, maybe I want to ask that question from a community standpoint. Okay. What's different about the community today versus 9 years ago or 10 years ago? And what do you think is different about the chamber or maybe the chamber's role or anything like that? Like you would have, of all the people on the planet, you've got to have maybe the most unique, credible perspective. Like
credible. Oh,
you like that word? Hold on.
I've been thinking about that word.
It's super credible. I looked up the word and turns out you're it. You know what I mean?
No, I think what's different in the community, and it's not just our community, it's across the world, and it breaks my heart into a million pieces. It's the negativity, and it is, I mean, I'm staring at my phone across the room. It is that device that we have in our pockets and is right there. I'll give you an example. When COVID, good, I don't want to say the C word, happened, and you've got, I mean, we all learned a lot through that. I hope we never have to go through anything like that. Being at this chamber during that time, while also being on the hospital board at that time, you've got half the people going, we got to stop. Nobody can do. Then you've got businesses going, are you kidding me? Like I've got to keep that was the most challenging thing because you can see it from all sides, right? There is so much truth right there in the middle, but how do you navigate that? So as a result, one night at about 11:30, nobody throw anything at me, but I started that Wayne County Eats and Drinks and page because at that time restaurants were closed. They could do takeout. So I've had people say to me that are in the restaurant business, one of them said, the chamber was my lifeline. Like we would not have been open had it not been for the chamber doing that. So it makes you're like, oh my God, that was so good. But then you would see this negative outpouring of trash. I mean, and so I cried multiple times reading it going, what if I inadvertently have hurt a restaurant or a business because I was trying to do something good. So there's this constant battle that's all around us. Yeah. I mean, how quickly somebody is. We all want to be the first to know something. Everybody's looking for the biggest reaction. We've got more information coming to us than we've ever had. And most of it is for the good. There's a lot of it that's for the bad. So from the community standpoint, I feel like society in general has gotten, we're just negative. Like, I don't think we're waking up with a grateful heart. And it's like, I tell my daughter, she went and had an experience doing something new the other day. And it was, she didn't like this, she didn't like this, she didn't like this. And it's like, whoa. Let's start with, tell me two things you did like. And it's amazing. It'll shift your tone almost. Yeah. Like, nothing's perfect in any community. Right. And instead of pointing out all the things we do or don't have, or we should have done, or it used to be done like this, let's focus on what's good. I promise you, like, it makes the biggest difference. And that's what's hard now, I think, looking back. But that's anybody. You ask a retired educator, what was the first day like when you went into your first classroom? What was the last? And it will break your heart. It's like this level of disrespect that I just feel like we've all, this casualness that we've just all gotten okay with. I have written a letter. This is crazy. Oh, no. I've not gotten a response yet. But we all have these devices in our home. What are they called? Alexa. And we say, Alexa, do this. Alexa, do that. We got one. And my kids who say please and thank you so well, I'm hearing this. Alexa, What's the weather like? I mean, screaming at it. There's no thing. So I've written a letter saying, can you please implement that there be a response with a nice acknowledgement, a thank you, and please. And don't have her respond unless.
Yeah.
But nobody's responding.
That's good. My wife used to have what's it called? Like a picture up. It was just a phrase. And she put it in the window. If you focus on the good gets better.
Yes.
And I was like, oh.
Yes.
Come on. Somebody preach, Kate.
Yes. You see what you're looking for in life. If you're looking for a red Toyota Camry, you're going to see 4
That's right.
today.
You'll find it, right.
But if you're looking for good, you're going to see it. And Wayne County is so full of goodness.
That's true.
And focusing on the good doesn't mean you don't have to do the other work. That's not it at all. Like I am not some positive Pollyanna.
Right.
But I promise you, if you look for the good, you're going to find those connections, those resources, and that's where the meaningful stuff happens.
I was telling somebody the other day that I think, I was like, if you want to love where you live, you should come hang out with me for a week.
Yes.
I mean, like for all the negative stuff you hear and all this crap, the beauty of the scope of the chamber is that you get to see in every sector good after good after good. And I'm like, that's pretty cool.
You get to see and hear things that the general public doesn't get to.
Right.
And that is such a blessing. Like, I think I realized it during my time here, but then when you step away and you're like, oh my gosh, the opportunity, the people, the conversations, the impact, all the things, it's just, it does change your perspective. And then you have to figure out what you're going to do with that. And you share that good news.
So you've transitioned.
Mm-hmm.
What's that been like?
So it's been great. I mean, it's similar in some regards. I mean, it's how are we making sure we're being in front of people to know what opportunities are coming about and promoting an incredible business. I mean, they have been in Wayne County for 61 years. We only do Raleigh to the coast. So we know Eastern North Carolina, and it is a true family-owned business, 3rd generation. And the people at Daniels & Daniels are amazing. They are experts at what they do, and they're really good people.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's going fantastic is what you're saying.
It's going fantastic.
You don't miss us at all.
I miss y'all terribly, but
well,
I'm
you don't miss
so
me, but you know what I mean?
proud of you. So you asked me another question I didn't answer. Squirrel. What's different with the chamber is I feel like, it reached this point where it was like, okay, we are stable. We have got this. We've done this. We've done this. We've done this. And I just felt in my heart of all hearts, I was like, okay, it's time to pass the baton to somebody who can level up, who is like next level this Chamber of Commerce. And when I found out that you were selected, I was so ecstatic because I have watched you for years now. I have watched, you're very visionary, but you are a hype man and you pull in people and you make stuff happen. And that's been awesome to watch.
Sport Durst Volkswagen Mazda of Goldsboro is proud to support Wayne County Chamber of Commerce. Family owned and operated, Sport Durst knows the importance of keeping local money local and supporting the community. We put our customers first with the area's best pricing, best trade-in value, and best selection of new and pre-owned vehicles. Come experience the Sport Durst difference, where customers and community come first.
Well, you're being very sweet, but I will say that my involvement with the chamber was my involvement with you. Like, literally, I'll never forget. I mean, I became a chamber member because, you're supposed to be a chamber member and all this kind of stuff.
Well, duh.
And then I did what everybody else did. I was like, why am I paying this money? It's like, are you serious? It's this much? And I'm like, what's going on here? And I remember it was my Limelight days, which was a screen printing business. And you guys had been very supportive of me just personally. And for whatever reason, it was a very difficult day. And I thought that day was going to be the day that I was not going to be in business anymore. Over, Rover. Like I thought it was just done. Now, I don't, because that's business in a nutshell. You have the
real highs,
especially small business. But I think this happens in every business, but certainly in small business, you think, oh my God, we're going to Disney this year. We're living, this is going to be great. I'm going to be rich. And then there is like by the next day at lunch, I'm the worst entrepreneur and business leader on the face of the planet. And I'll never forget that was the day that I ran into you for some reason. I don't even remember where or how or what. And I said, I think I'm thinking about not being in business anymore. And I just remember the conversation that was, no, that can't happen, basically, in so many words. And I just think how pivotal that conversation was. And that conversation only could happen because of the role that you were in. The chamber platform allowed you to be there in that moment, right? To be trusted. But then it was you that personally, took that and turned it into something very, very powerful. And for me, I would not have been in business. I believe to this day that if somebody ever asks me about the impact of the Chamber of Commerce, I think about that conversation. Oh. And so, it's like, well, hey, what would have happened? Right? And so my life is forever different. We got to stop. We got to stop for a minute, but it's forever different because of that. And so, and my family's life, because you think about all these people that every business is not just a thing. It's a group of people, whether it's 4 or 40 or 400. Somebody's family's getting fed, right? Their life is happening and it's changing, which is why I think we're all so passionate about entrepreneurship. It's like, well, I think about personally where I came from, and we were not people of means. Like I didn't come from a family that had money. I didn't have money, and I got into business. And from that day to this day, that trajectory's been different, but it is not what it ever would have been were it not for the Chamber of Commerce and were it not for Kate Daniels. And so I just think that when somebody ever asks me the impact of the Chamber, that's what I think about, and I hope that whatever culture that is, whatever thing that breeds that this platform would always be delivered in that fashion. And any event that's ever built or anything that's ever done is still going to be about that micro moment of hope, right? Belief that, we're going to be okay. Yeah. This is going to be okay. You're going to make it. You can do this. So thank you for that, I guess. I didn't even know that I was going to talk about that, but that's my personal experience. And so thank you very much. And, but you had kids also. In addition to changing my life, thank you, Kate. You also had kids. You did this.
God, I feel like this is like a therapy session.
He's bringing tissue. So I need as much as you do. Thanks. You had kids, right? Which is a unique. So it's one thing for, frankly, in my life, in my situation, it's, my wife does a lot of the heavy lifting with our kids, and I'm so thankful for that. Not because, she's a woman, but just by virtue of the way our house is laid out, she does a lot of the heavy lifting. And I would think being a mom is just a slightly different being a dad. And especially when, you have a dad who's leading a business. How did you navigate that?
Oh man.
Because this thing right here, this chamber thing is, especially in the situation where you were in, trying to get to everybody, get to everywhere.
Yeah. So, Wayne Christian, our kids were in daycare there, and that was our lifeline, right? Like we, and we would have family come and pick up, and all the things. But it was really that Jeremiah was supportive of wanting. He's like, yes, this is where you're supposed to be. Like, this is what you're supposed to do, and I want to support you. Doing it, we'll figure it out. And so that took a lot of planning. Anybody that has a business or kids, any of the above, like you just have to plan. And, you do that little laundry at 11:30 at night because, it's just, you do what you got to do. But I look at so many other people and I'm like, I don't know how they do it. So, I think it's all relative. But we blinked. And because ours were 1 and 2 when we started. And I remember like on a Saturday or Sunday having to come in and they would camp out in that conference room. And it's like
just make it work.
You make it work. And then I look back and I think of those like really cool opportunities they had. When they were itty bitty, Mayor Chuck Allen let them be up there with the kids, flipping the lights on for Downtown Lights Up.
Yeah.
There's things that, the Christmas parade, that they got to see from a different lens. So we and I'm so thankful for the opportunity to be here when they were that age. They will remember a lot of the chamber stuff, but they will mock me now. And it's funny. It's going to hurt my feelings at some point. But next time you see James, say, what's your mom do? And he will like prompt you. He'll grab my sunglasses and he'll walk around and be like, hey, y'all, I love Wayne County so much. And it's this, and I'm like, that's what they
Hold on, I'm sorry.
heard
We
and
missed
seen.
that. What does he say again?
I will get him to send you a video.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all. I love Wayne County so much.
Good. We got to have him out here. Let him do some marketing.
He would love it. Yes, yes. But I think you've got to weigh out where you are in your life and what's important. And I think if you're where you feel like you're making a difference, you figure it out. And I feel like I was a better mom. I'll use this as an example. Like some moms and dads are on all the time. And that's amazing. Mm-hmm. And I'm one of those that like the all day, every day with a 1 and 2 year old.
Yeah.
I would not be giving my best self.
Yeah, right.
My friends that have been able to do that, they are
amazing.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal. So, I just think I feel like I had the best of all worlds.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So what do you think that most people don't know about the Chamber of Commerce that they should?
Ooh.
Because full transparency, when even coming in, and I thought I was pretty engaged in the community.
Right.
Oh man, I had no idea.
I think I can't answer this, and I'll tell you why. So the first rule of business is, or marketing or anything is, what's your elevator pitch? 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Never could do it.
Yeah.
Never could do it. Never could do it in 30 seconds.
Sure.
It's almost like the chamber does so much and has done so much, but it's not stuff. It's like meaningful business.
Oh, yeah.
The Wayne Education Network. Yeah. My gosh, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars have been poured back into the schools?
The MAC.
The Military Affairs Committee is 70 years strong in our community. You talk to retired leadership and they will talk about the Military Affairs Committee was a lifeline for my family, or all this. So you look at that. You look at the programming and the partnerships for economic development, and all those things that make this engine run. That's a community, and you've got this steady voice of the Wayne County Chamber that has continued to evolve. And I think I look back like it's so silly now. Like I remember the first time I was like, we're not getting as many people to ribbon cuttings. We need to stream it on Facebook, and we'd have the wild, like we didn't have, like it was very grassroots, and it was so well receptive because it was grassroots. So I feel like, okay, next level is what? And then next level is that. You've taken that to the next level, but I'm so proud of what the team was able to do in terms of like messaging and branding and being and doing and seeing. And what's weird is like those ribbon cuttings. It was ridiculous what the traction was on them. But it's almost like that prepared us for the worst thing ever, which was COVID.
Yeah.
And so all this virtual stuff. And this chamber didn't stop then.
No,
Most
right.
did.
Kept on going.
Yeah. And it kept on going because the mission is solid and it is supported immensely by amazing volunteers and the work is meaningful. And so I think that's a beautiful thing.
It is. I like to tell people I don't have to wake up and wonder if what I'm doing today matters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The problem is how you sleeping.
How you sleeping?
How are
and
you
how do
sleeping?
you choose to orient your day? It's it takes some figuring.
Yeah.
But-
That's the hard thing is because, people that own businesses, I truly believe if you are running an organization or a business, your mind is always thinking of, what if this happened? What about this? Oh, we should have done this. Oh, where is so-and-so on this? Your mind's always going. I do think from the chamber standpoint, your mind is doing that times how many members? How many members do y'all have right now?
630.
Oh my God, you know how amazing that is.
Yeah.
Okay, so that many members, that's something I think people don't realize is when you're wired like you are and you're in this seat, you want everybody to not just make it, but you want them to thrive. And so you're thinking about not just the organization, but every single member. You're thinking about the good, the bad, all of it.
Yeah.
That is the sleeping part was hard because it was almost like you had those however many businesses.
Yeah.
We never had 630 when I was here.
Oh,
That's
well,
amazing.
okay. But
No, that's amazing.
It is amazing. But there would 630 would have never occurred if you had to get to 600. Just to get to 600, people don't understand how hard it's hard to have a net gain of members. It's very difficult. So
Very hard.
that retention word is so tricky. And I think
It
that's
is
true for a lot
tricky.
of businesses.
Oh, yeah.
Every business that we've all deal with, trying to maintain customers and maintain a long relationship with customers. That's why businesses that have lasted for a long
That's
time
right.
have proven that they know how to keep a customer,
That's right.
right? And they know how to manage a relationship. And I think that's all business is for the most part. It's just effectively managing relationships. And, some people are better at it than others. I literally believe you're the best person in the world. I think if there was a what's it called? Like a picture, we used to say a picture in the dictionary. I don't think anybody.
I know what a dictionary is.
You know what a dictionary is? I don't think anybody uses those, but that would be you. And,
You're much too gracious.
well, all right. So a lot of things in the community have changed, over time. Leaders who used to be here aren't here anymore. We've got new people around. There's all kinds of different things, different challenges, different issues, different tensions.
Yeah.
And we try to dig into some of this with a lot of our guests. But if you, from your vantage, having seen what you've seen and know what you know, you've connected politically, so you're familiar kind of with policy and politics and all those things too. But you could wave a magic wand. What would you wish to see in this community?
Mm-hmm.
And for this community, maybe on the horizon, over the next.
I wish we could wave a wand and sprinkle it everywhere where people would give people grace and not make assumptions. We are so quick to make an assumption about something being negative. And I think that is I said it earlier. I think that's I think that's our society today we live in. But I do. We've got issues and I could rattle them off like, oh, we need to do something about the homeless. We need to do something. All those things matter. But when you step down and go, but who's at the table actually working? Oh, well, so this person who thinks nothing's being done doesn't know about, and I'm not going to list, but all those things. So I think just my dad used to say, you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've come from. And I think there's so much history and lessons learned that are right here at this chamber and in this community. And a lot of times, you need to know kind of the back history, not to go backwards, but just to move forward and to, to go back to having conversations where we're listening. And that's not a Wayne County dig. That's a societal thing. I'm on a societal kick these days.
No, I get
I
it.
want people to be nice.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And I mean, I think we the mistrust. It seems like there's a sort of an instinct for a mistrust just in the air.
But I feel like it's always been there, right? It's just these devices it's
amplified
exacerbated it.
And COVID probably too.
Sure. And so I wish we could all retrain our brains to, I read in this book. Can you believe I read a book?
Of course.
And it was talking about the first 20 minutes you wake up. And it's talking about how, like, as we as society, I mean, you know, like our ancestors did not go from an air-conditioned car to an air-conditioned house to looking at a screen all day. We're not moving enough. We're not doing all the stuff we know, right? But in the first 20 minutes that you wake up, so when my alarm's tied to my phone, which is next to my bed. So I look at my phone when I was at the chamber. I would refresh my email, refresh every chamber social media, make sure nothing was going to alarm me. But, you know, you do that and then you go down the rabbit hole. In 15 minutes, the first time you've opened your mind and you're waking up, you're seeing that. It's terrible for us.
Mm-hmm.
So his whole thing is you get up and within 20 minutes, you get natural, like, sunlight. Sun's not up, go outside. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what these small things that we've gotten away from, but also, like, wake up and think of what's great's going to happen that day.
Yeah.
It will end up going south at any given point of the day.
Sure.
But it's that whole concept of that general, I can't say his name right now, but you make your bed every morning. And it is the most profound story I've ever heard. And I've made my bed every day as an adult. And it's the concept of you make your bed, you make it well. And if your day doesn't go as planned, you at least come home to a well-made bed. You cannot control what happens when you get out of that bed.
That's true.
You can't control it, but you can with your attitude. I think that's something we're forgetting is it's just we're overwhelmed and we're overstimulated. And I think it brings more peace in communities.
And how does someone with that approach and that attitude, how do those people get elected? Because let's talk politics for just a second. I don't want to go deep into this because, you know, we're neutral. We're Switzerland, you know what I mean? But I think we can look at it and say, gosh, it would be nice if maybe there was a little less of this or that, or left and right, or black and white, or, you know, and just a little bit more. Because, like, when you deal with people on the ground in Wayne County, no matter what they look like, no matter what their affiliation is, they agree on 7.5 out of 10 things.
Oh, yes. But because of said device that I keep talking about, that doesn't get as much traction. And it's easier to throw darts or make a statement where it's going to get the most, like, he has identified the problem and you know, he's going to know how to fix it because he's okay ruffling feathers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you're not gonna make positive waves with, what's the analogy? Honey bee. I mean, you know, like,
and
it's
complaining is not a strategy.
No,
You
and
know?
it's not offering a solution.
Yeah.
We need, you know, it's very important to identify what the issues are, but to me, it's way more important to have people that will know what the issues are and then work to find solutions together.
Yeah. And that's not an indictment of our elected leaders.
This is just in general.
Yeah, Wayne County's fortunate in a lot of ways because we, you know, it's fortunate for a lot of reasons. The position that we're in, you know, politically speaking. But I just think that when you look at, you know, some of these conversations that seem to happen in public forums and, you know, just it's
half truths.
Yeah,
and that's the hard thing is, you know, it's sometimes it's not the whole picture. And how many sides are there to a story? 7.
There's 7. You said there's 7.
There's 7.
And I'm going to take your word for
There's 7. It's like,
I believe that.
Maybe not scientific, but it's a Kateism.
I think, and what really makes something scientific anyway? You know?
Right.
If we just believe it, then maybe so. So, all right. These days, what motivates you? What wakes you up? Gets you going?
just the opportunity to be with my people, whether it's in my house or out in the community, and just, trying to do good with the time we've got and be a decent human, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're one of the best.
Well, you're
one of the most
gracious.
decent. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your service to this county and this community. It's appreciated across the board, and we were just fortunate to be able to have you today.
Well, I'm tickled to be here, and thank you for your service to this community.
All right. Thank you.